One day she visited me. She said, "Are you pregnant or are you just getting more fat?" Why would you do that? Are you crazy? I had this many kids and I could never let any of you go.
At the time when you saw Cindy's post on Facebook, what did you think about it? Why did you contact her immediately?
I strongly believe in everything happens for a reason. It was the same time that I was doing my due diligence, researching, looking into surrogacy. And at the time, I knew there was an independent route, but I didn't know how to even start one. Out of nowhere, I came across Cindy's post. I felt like it was a calling. I thought, what a coincidence. I'm looking into surrogacy. Here's this woman looking for a surrogate and wanting to go the independent route. And then on top of that, we had the same last name. My mind was blown. I felt very strongly about reaching out. I remember having butterflies when I sent her the message and she responded. Almost like when they say love at first sight, when you know, you just know. And when we finally did talk, it just sealed the deal for me. I felt immediately comfortable with Cindy. I felt like we clicked right away. I don't know if we're just two very laid back people, but there were really no conflicts or anything. I didn't even have to tell her what I was looking for because she was just like straightforward right off the bat. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm proposing. And it just marked every box for me.
Your last name is Wu. Where your family come from?
So my husband, he is Cantonese Chinese. I'm not ethnically Chinese. I'm actually Hmong. My parents were born and raised in Laos. My last name is actually my husband's last name.
A little bit back to the conversation with the families, your parents, your husband's parents. What did they think about being the surrogate?
When I was starting the process, I chose to keep it very private between my husband and I and our kids. I believe I told two of my closest friends, and that was it. And it wasn't until the pregnancy was confirmed, then we shared with his parents. Older generation, Asian parents, they have certain beliefs. I knew that once I was confirmed pregnant, they would have less opinions to say. But before it happens, I just didn't want to hear anything that was going to be negative towards my journey. So I actually didn't tell my mom until 6 months along. One day she visited me. She said, "Are you pregnant or are you just getting more fat?" And I explained to her. She was like, "Why would you do that? Are you crazy?" So my mom has 14 kids. She saw it as I had this many kids and I could never let any of you go. I just said my pregnancies always go very smooth and healthy and I just wanted to help somebody. So she just accepted it and she was fine. My dad does not know that I was a surrogate.
How about the parents of your husband? What did they think about it?
My husband speaks Cantonese to them, but his Cantonese is just conversational. He doesn't know exactly how to explain a surrogate or the term for surrogate. So I remember reaching out to Cindy and asking her, what is the term? His parents speak Mandarin and Cantonese. Cindy provided that term to me. We just showed them the word in Chinese and just said, this is what Chua is doing. He just said, oh, okay, you're having a baby for someone else. They actually took it really well. They had questions like, where did you meet this person? And like, who are they? When are you due? And why isn't she having another one? It was more just out of curiosity, not so much judgment.
So when you have the conversation with Cindy about the surrogate contract, what's your discussion?
What was really helpful too was Cindy already did all her research. She already had everything ready to go. This is what I'm proposing in terms of compensation. How do you feel about not traveling or certain foods? And I can't say if it's the same for every surrogacy journey, but I just feel really lucky that our values aligned and what we both were looking for just matched up really well. She proposed, I reviewed, and it fell right in line with what I was already thinking, if not even better than what I was thinking. And it wasn't until there were some changes in my job, which affected my insurance and my pay, that I had brought it up to Cindy. But even at the time when things came up, I was never worried about bringing anything up to her because she was very reasonable. I just got lucky in this process and journey. I'm sure that's not always the case for everybody.
What about the rules about the insurance in your contract?
Initially, at my job at the time, I was with one insurance provider that wasn't surrogate friendly at all. We were in agreement that that was just something that Cindy would cover as part of this process. However, when I had switched jobs, the first thing I did was ask for the benefit information because I thought, oh, this is my opportunity to find a insurance provider that was surrogate friendly. I had called my insurance provider, and even the representatives that assisted me couldn't even confirm 100%. We just took that risk because Cindy had already agreed to cover the lien for the previous insurance provider. So if it's surrogate friendly, then that's great for us. If it's not, then we're still in the same boat. I feel like insurance is a very, very tricky process. They tend to be very vague of their policies. When I found out it was surrogate friendly, I was very happy for Cindy.
Can I ask what's your occupation right now?
I work with a college district. I actually work in human resources.
When it comes to the compensation, what points will be considered?
The most important thing to me was just to make sure that if anything happened and I couldn't work, then my family and I wouldn't be penalized for the income that I couldn't bring in. But other than that, I was very flexible. My main motivation of doing the surrogacy was just to help another family. Money was just secondary to me. In the beginning, while I was doing my research, I remember thinking, why even bring money into surrogacy? It should be altruistic. But afterwards, I understand it's almost like life insurance. It affects not just you, it affects your whole entire family. It wasn't so much payment, but it was more for anything that may arise out of the surrogacy. Things could be going well, and then things can take a turn. I wanted to do something selfless for somebody, but in some ways it was selfish to my family to put them in that situation where they could lose me, be left without me. And so it was only fair to add compensation to it to make up for that. And I don't think we'll ever be in agreement on what that right amount is. At least it helped my support system understand more of why even start this process in the first place.
Discuss the compensation with your husband or other family members or friends?
I only discussed it with my husband, asking him to look over it with me. He was like, you know more than I do. It was ultimately left to me.
During the whole journey, what impressed you most?
They always say it gets easier as you have more. But then the other part of me is like, you're older now. So what surprised me was it was the best pregnancy of all my pregnancies. My very first one, I had sciatica. My second one, the way that he was sitting was very low. So I had a lot of pelvic pain. But with Cindy's baby, he was so good to me. I just thought, wow, thanks for making this process really easy, because when you're carrying your own child, everyone's like, oh, but it's worth it. All the pain and everything that you go through. If I was suffering, people might look at me like, this isn't your child. Why are you putting yourself through this? I have no complaints about the pregnancy.
It was sort of a hint, a very big hint from the doctor that he didn't believe the lining issues were easily resolvable. He said, we can certainly try, but it's probably not a bad idea to keep looking.